I made a video about being in flow yesterday, and I want to make clear the distinction between flow and logic. So, logic basically has to do with what your mind knows and understands. It's the built processes within it that dictate your understanding of the world and how you orient within it, and so forth, right? And the reason why I talk about moving beyond logic is not to abdicate or eliminate the usage of it or to become beneath logic, so to say, stupid, right? Or basically allowing emotions in a way to overtake logic. I'm talking about something far stronger and deeper and beyond that. I'm talking about allowing elements of the transcendent, which is unconditioned, which is spiritual rather than emotional, to um, guide and dictate one's life, right? And knowing how to put logic in its place with respect to the entire life rather than allowing logic to dominate, right? So, um, I was one of my friends was communicating to me about Eckhart Tolle yesterday, and one of the things he said is that what Eckhart is talking about, it sort of negates the value of emotion, and um, it's not testable. He's, because Eckhart talks about moving beyond the mind, and my friend is saying that, well, the mind dictates everything about who we are, and then what Eckhart is talking about, it's not like testable, right? And basically, I responded to him, that's a very rational way to look at it, right? And that's the mind's way of talking, of assessing these ideas that Eckhart's talking about. And what Eckhart is talking about on the level of ideas is actually pretty simple. It's, look beyond your mind, right? But if you understand it from a spiritual vantage point, it makes a lot of sense because everything exists now, right? Including thoughts, which exist in the mind. And the mind, to my friend's point, is the gatekeeper to all of one's understanding of reality. It dictates how you're going to view things, right? What Eckhart is talking about is to allow a force beyond the mind to take control, at least temporarily, right? When you're not thinking about past and future, when you're allowing yourself to actually sink into the moment and live in flow, right? Eckhart, for example, he had a prestigious job offer at Cambridge University, and from a logical standpoint, one might think, oh, well, I should take this. And he decided not to. So a spontaneous impulse told him to go to the Pacific Northwest rather than remain in England. And he went to Canada, and then he was sort of living like, as people would describe, like a bum for a while because he didn't have a job, he had no social affiliations, he wasn't famous or successful or anything as he is now. But he was basically just living enlightened, and he spent 2 years on and off of like park benches in a state of complete joy, like absolute unperturbed bliss. He says the type of thing that in which every cell in the body is vibrant with joy. And from a logical standpoint, it looks ridiculous. He looks like a bum, right? But something deeper was at work there, and through his insights, through his experience, through his time, developing his understanding of these concepts and living them, more importantly, um, he, he answered a lot of people's questions over the course of years, and he just compiled a question and answer book called The Power of Now. And now that's a bestseller. Now he's rich. Now he's famous. And so it basically led to something bigger on a logical scale. He's now a celebrity, so to say, if that logically sounds good. And to the ego mind, that definitely does because he has money and he's established and he's providing to society all these logical things which are good, and he seems safe. Like the logical mind very much operates on, is something safe or is it not safe? He's safe because he's made it, right? So basically, him following the flow and looking past logic for a period of time led him to develop a much greater sense of awareness and led him to a higher logical conclusion. Whereas if you're a professor, his life would be different. And from a logical standpoint, you think that the impact he's making in his current form is better than it would have been had he taken the other path. So, but even that's looking at it from the level of logic, right? He's talking about living in flow, living with a deep present focus, whether it be on surroundings, whether it be on your internal self, whatever it may be. And it actually eliminates all worry and fear if you really allow this to seep into your being, into your consciousness, because all fear lives in the mind. It lives in the anticipation of the future. And the future has one guaranteed outcome for all people with respect to who they are and their, earthly self. I was watching Osho, but I haven't watched much Osho. I'm not as familiar with him as I am with Eckhart and some other spiritual teachers. But Osho said, he had a video, it's called "There Is No Goal." Right? He says that life is the goal, living life is the goal, and all other goals are like extrapolations of the ego mind, right? And the reason why this can be hard to understand from a lower standpoint is because when you're not enlightened, you're like, okay, well, I have goals, I have this, I have that, right? And if someone's telling you that your goals don't matter, it sounds ridiculous, and you probably shouldn't even follow that advice, right? But what he's saying is coming from a transcendent standpoint, right? And from a transcendent standpoint is actually right, because when you're really fully enmeshed and in tune with life, you'll see that everything is, there's something that's happening, there's something you're doing, and you do it fully. You may win, you may lose, you may succeed, you may not, whatever it may be. But you're doing it without fear, you're allowing presence to come through you, and that becomes your basic modality of being. At Wimbledon, there's this quote by Rudyard Kipling, this great the Crown tennis tournament, right before the entrance of center court. This is where all the big matches happen. And the quote is something to the effect of, and of course it has some strange grammar, like a lot of these wise quotes have. It's something like this: to see victory and defeat, and see those two imposters as the same. That's again, of course, that quote is at Wimbledon, the Crown tournament, right? The one that is the most austere, the one that doesn't allow any endorsements on the court, the one that's the most steeped in tradition, the one that's the crown of the entire, the biggest prize in the entire tennis world. Yeah. So, okay. I've shared what I want to share for now. Hope you enjoyed.